Live from a NASCAR bunker in Kyle's parents' basement, it's Turn the Radio Off with Mike Parsons and Kyle Bauer.
Become a fan at Facebook.com/TTRO Show. Follow along on Twitter.com/TTRO Show. Or just listen right now. It's Turn the Radio Off.
I am an idiot. Kyle, last week I had one of the all-time greatest teases in the history of podcasts. And I never paid it off.
We started talking about Christmas music, and that was that.
Yeah. You know how I get with my Christmas music. Christmas music, for it or against us. 1-800-LA-LA-LA. I believe my tease was, back in the day, it was first comes love, then comes marriage. And now, it's Netflix and chill, and then what? Well, it turns out that we all know, everyone knows what Netflix and chill is, yes?
Yes.
Kyle, you before you were in your now stable long-term relationship, you were
I may have invented it.
You may have.
And just forgot that I did.
And then some ironic T-shirt slap-ass on the internet stole it and memed it. That's the thing about...
Some marketing ninja.
Some social media rock star. Epic win. Well, how long has Netflix and chill been in our cultural lexicon?
I'd say about 6 months, right?
Okay, so
roughly
that's a decent, sane amount of time for a relationship to progress from Netflix and chill, and this is according to UrbanDictionary.com, to Hulu and commitment.
Wow, so Hulu is the next step. Is that because they have Seinfeld?
Yeah, well, it's because they have TV series, but so does Netflix. But I guess once you get comfortable with each other, you start farting in front of each other, using the bathroom at each other's places, and you stop watching Netflix and you start watching Hulu.
Is this a covert promo for Hulu? Is that what this is?
Maybe.
It sounds like it could be.
I thought Netflix and chill was a marketing ploy for Netflix, so possibly. But isn't Netflix and chill sexier than Hulu and commitment? Netflix and chill is matching lace underwear. Hulu and commitment is sweatpants and old T-shirt.
That's true. I've never have found Hulu attractive. Never. And I'm in commitment right now.
Yeah.
And we still watch Netflix.
So what is it after that?
We don't chill, though.
Is it it goes Netflix and chill, Hulu and commitment, and then in another year I was gonna say minivan and sharing bills.
I think you go straight from Hulu and commitment right to hospice.
Yeah, right. It's so you're watching along. So
you're stuck doing it for the next 60 years.
So you're watching Star Trek because that's the only series or Gunsmoke that lasts long enough to go from Netflix and chill to death.
Google Glass and divorce. I don't know.
Google Glass is totally something that a balding guy who just impulse bought a Corvette would wear.
Exactly. That's why it's divorce. Someone's having some sort of crisis if they're wearing Google Glass.
Google Glass. Show me my Tinder and where I can get some pussy.
Exactly. And then it just like one of the little Tinder flame just pops up in front of poor unsuspecting girls in the restaurant. Oh, sorry. I got a fantasy football notice. Let me check that out.
Oh, I thought that was your Tinder notification.
Oh, no, No, I keep that on the down low. That's a vibrate. A vibrate.
You love Scott Van Pelt After Midnight so much you made it your Tinder notification.
Which, by the way, I've only watched one episode of Scott Van Pelt at midnight.
It's good.
Well, and I only have because, I mean, at my house, I don't have cable.
Right.
I have Netflix.
Yeah, of course.
Not in Hulu.
That's how you get laid. Nobody gets laid watching cable.
And so one night when I was at my parents' house, I can't remember. It was after a pretty big game. I can't remember what game. And Scott Van Pelt at the open of the show, Scott Van Pelt is berating his production staff because they didn't have the right highlight up.
Wow. That's Bush League.
It's like 2 minutes into the show, and he's like, this is not the game that we're supposed to see. This isn't even the right sport. I don't know what's going on back there.
You know, I'm disappointed in Scott Van Pelt.
I was also really weirded out by the intro, which is like a miniature version of him, going through various settings in Los Angeles. Like,
I think they're trying to position him to be like a quasi Keith Olbermann, maybe a little less polarizing. But
then don't fire Keith Olbermann.
Yeah.
And bring him back onto your network and let him take that role.
Well, like I said, semi less polarizing.
Right.
So, by the way, good news. Anonymous foiled a plot by ISIS to carry out an attack at WWE Survivor Series over the weekend, so that was good.
Is that true?
Anonymous put out a release that said that named 3 places that ISIS was planning on attacking this weekend after they hacked into their social media sites and everything, and there were no attacks. So. Good job, ISIS. Or never good job, ISIS. Good job, Anonymous.
Now? I'm not a snob. I
sometimes you are.
Well, okay. Sometimes I definitely am. I mean, I won't touch Hulu.
No.
So there you go.
Right.
Now here's the thing that I don't understand. Nothing against wrestling and WWE, but really. Really?
You know, I bet you it was symbolic.
That's on their radar.
It must have been symbolic because it's like a sign of strength and masculinity.
I suppose, or maybe because John Cena gave that Osama bin Laden speech.
We need to do that.
Remember, John Cena declared Osama bin Laden compromised? You don't remember that when that happened in 2011?
And now he's dead. Good job, John Cena.
Hell,
you terrorists want to come up in here, you dumb son of a bitch. I did say someone did post Vince McMahon's post 9/11 speech, which kind of got me riled up.
If that's true, good, but I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a lot of places that ISIS or other terrorist organizations have tried to attack, and we have so much intelligence and so much surveillance on them. You know, we hear about these terrorist plots being foiled so much that we don't really think about it. You know, kind of like how the term war fatigue.
Right.
We got fatigued out of here. Oh, they broke up another terrorist plot. Okay.
Well,
all right,
and also,
cool. Yeah.
These could be.
Meanwhile,
could be
another mass shooting happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these could be fake plots too to distract you, and
Yeah,
that's
possible.
But technically, this was supposed to be like secure inner memos amongst ISIS that Anonymous hacked into.
Who do you think ISIS's favorite wrestler is?
Probably the Iron Sheik.
Nah. No.
I don't know.
I'm gonna go with let's see. I'm gonna go with the Undertaker.
I got to be honest with you, Kyle.
They like what he represents.
I don't know who's still active on the roster. I believe that the Undertaker, Mark Calloway, he's actually quite patriotic when he's outside of character.
Well, he can't help it that ISIS loves him.
I would love to see him choke slam ISIS.
Yeah, that would be cool, but I'm saying ISIS is probably a fan of The Undertaker. They had to have been a fan of someone if they were going to target the Survivor Series.
What if ISIS tried to take over the Survivor Series and then the entire arena went dark and dong, that little thing, and then The Undertaker just comes and he tombstone pile drives all of them, and then the world lives in peace, and he'll be like, live in peace.
If it were the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, I think that would definitely be a plot line. And they would have fake ISIS come out there with, like, the Iron Sheik or maybe the Big Boss Man or something, and then Papa Shango would, light them on fire. I don't know. So it would be something cool like that.
No, ISIS would come out with Vince McMahon because he's the WWE's greatest villain of all time.
Well, I mean,
I just made an oil deal with the people in ISIS. America, kiss my ass.
I would love that. Oh, that'd be
Stone
great.
Cold comes out and shoots him with a beer truck. Budweiser, because Budweiser's made in America.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. I think they should actually turn this whole alleged thwarted ISIS terrorist attack attempt into an angle, a running plot. I think it would be great.
The Ric Flair son who died of an overdose angle.
Or Ric Flair having a heart attack in the ring angle.
See, I don't know if that was
the Ric Flair heart attack was staged.
Okay, good.
That was
because the thing is, Ric Flair has been old as long as I can remember, and so when he had that heart attack, I believed it.
Yeah, I think everybody believed it at the time, but then it came out that, it was fake, and it was just an excuse for him to go on, like, an extended vacation or something. That's usually how they do it. They usually have a wrestler get a, injury.
Right.
Which a lot of times they're probably hurt in some way or the other.
Well, they're hurt all the time.
I mean,
their bodies don't work once they retire.
But they get like a legitimate vacation, or they get some time off, or maybe they need to rewrite their character or something, or but I think this would be a perfect opportunity. I don't know if Daniel Bryan is back yet. I need to consult That's
the guy who goes yes, right?
Yes.
I like him. He's positive.
I need to consult my 9-year-old cousin on this. He would let me know. But if he's not back yet, this would be the perfect time for him to reemerge from his injuries and thwart ISIS.
By the way, you know who ISIS fears here on American soil? The Sicilian mob. Let's see, what's this guy's name? Giovanni Gambino, son of one of the bigwigs in the Sicilian mob, says that ISIS is not messing with New York because that's the Sicilian mob's territory, and ISIS genuinely fears the Sicilian mob.
I could believe that. I mean, I don't know. It might be a little delusional. I mean, would I fear the Sicilian mob? Yes, I would. I'm Italian, and let me give you let me tell you something about Italians. Now, whose phone is going off? And this is your podcast.
Yeah, sorry, that's the Undertaker.
Well, as long as it's not ISIS.
No, definitely
as long as Jihadi John isn't on the line with you, you're okay.
No, he's dead.
But yes, I say as an Italian, you never trust or you never mess with the Sicilian. Those are different cats. They're angry, they're small, and they're very greasy, which makes them fast. It's hard to take them in a rumble.
And their pizza is square.
Oh, and they all smell great.
Yeah.
Contrary to popular belief.
Coming up next, Kyle, is Donald Trump the new Iron Sheik? It's Turn the Radio Off on the Internet.
Less rock, more talk. Turn the radio off.
Become a fan at peoplehatemypodcast.com.
Welcome back. For 25 years, he's never rolled over about fighting crime. Welcome McGruff the Crime Dog.
Thanks, Joy. I got 2 words to make streets safer. Coffee cake.
Yeah, the crook eats the poison coffee cake. And
No, you invite neighbors over for a cup of coffee to discuss the problems on your street and what to do about them.
But still, a 10-pound cake dropped on a bad guy's foot could help.
Couldn't hurt. Going to weprevent.org could help, too.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, Crime Prevention Coalition of America, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Imagine a family, a mother, a father, and 2 kids. They were almost fed by neighbors who almost volunteered to help them out. Almost volunteered to give them their first hot meal in weeks. Almost volunteered. But as everyone knows, when it comes to giving, almost doesn't count. Don't almost give. Give. Give of your time, give of your money, give of your kindness. And to find out how you can help, visit don'talmostgive.org. A message brought to you by the Ad Council.
So much fun. It's scary. Become a fan on Facebook at www.ttroshow.com. It's Turn the Radio Off.
Okay, though, in all seriousness, Kyle, I want to run this anti-ISIS strategy by you and get your thoughts. I actually don't think it's such a bad idea. Marco Rubio, the handsome candidate from Florida, That's what I hear from all the ladies. He came out with the plan today. Well, he didn't really come out with one, but he was opining on it, and he said that he thinks it might be a good idea to release anti-ISIS propaganda videos in the places where the pro-ISIS propaganda videos are being shown, because that's a huge recruitment tool, and it should show forces or strikes by American forces on ISIS targets, or videos of ISIS soldiers weeping and crying and being less than honorable right before their deaths. And I got to say, I don't think it's a terrible idea. Now, we like to think that we're the United States and we're above that.
No, we're not.
But sometimes you got to fight fire with fire.
We've mastered that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like putting out these stupid news articles. I'm just talking about releasing these graphic videos that shows ISIS in a position of being less than powerful in the propaganda circles where the pro-ISIS propaganda is circulating.
It's one of the more rational plans Rubio has had, certainly a lot better than when he suggested that we start looking for Muslims in cafes and stores and pretty much anywhere they're just trying to live a normal life.
Oh, Christ.
And we start flushing them out, maybe round them up, if you will.
Yeah.
Those were comments he made last week. But this is a little bit more rational. My question is, where would these videos be showing? I mean, how do they know where ISIS is recruiting? I mean, are they going to get on IP servers, and are they going to figure out, who's visiting ISIS websites and then having pop-up videos of American propaganda or anti-ISIS propaganda? That's what I want to know. Like, where exactly is this going to be targeted, and how much of our money is going to be used for it?
Well, I guess that would be up to our intel specialists to find out where these videos are being distributed, where people are consuming their pro-ISIS propaganda.
And I believe that we have a beat on that stuff.
Yeah.
I never put anything past the American military. I think the American military doesn't get, because we've had a hard time finishing wars in the past 40 years. A lot of people seem to have discounted the American military, but it's still by far the most powerful and far-reaching in the world. And I wouldn't put anything past them. And yeah, sure. I mean, if they can target their audience, they can hit their target demographic, and not turn this into Starship Troopers or 2003 all over again.
Yeah.
As far as propaganda goes for war efforts. Then fine. Go ahead and do it. But I think with that comes limits. And you got to remember to have a fair, objective source. And in this country is in media, I'm not going to say mainstream media, but the media.
The lamestream media?
The media has had no issue kowtowing to the wishes of the military as far as how they cover wars and how they present it to us and what they show and what they don't show. That's never been an issue for them. And there have even been hearings about this in Washington. So if Rubio wants that, he can get. He's already probably going to get it.
Well, I'm at a point, Kyle, where I'm actually looking for a Republican candidate, because I'm at the point where I'm tempted to vote in the Republican primary for anyone but Trump. It's not cute anymore. He needs to get out. He's at worst a crazy racist old dude, and at least he's like your very fearful, somewhat racist uncle who reposts everything he sees on Facebook, thinking it's real. Of course, there was, after that speech last week, where one of the reporters asked him if he'd be in favor of a registry for all Muslims, and he said, yeah, absolutely. We need a lot of things. And of course, people are defending him for this, saying that, oh well, he was asked by a reporter, it was off the cuff, he was taken off guard. But it's like, look, if this was someone on the other side, you'd be saying the exact same thing. They caught him or her in a candid moment, and this is what they really think. But now they're like, hey, he didn't know what he was being asked. He was around a lot of people. Well, you know what? As a presidential candidate, you've got to be savvy about that stuff.
I thought was finally starting to derail a couple weeks ago. Actually, I remember the same day as the Paris attacks, I remember reading about this rambling 90-minute campaign speech he gave in Iowa.
I think he's been giving those since.
Where it seemed like he was cracking. And people are like, is Carson really getting to him? And what's going on here? He's starting to lose numbers in the polls. And then this terrorist attack happens in Paris, and go figure, the xenophobe, racist cashes in on it.
Well, and then later on, in a speech over the weekend, when he said that, I remember on 9/11, thousands of people in Jersey City cheering as those buildings went down, and not a single person remembers it. Nobody from the media, nobody in politics.
Which, by the way, there's also a rumor going around on the internet that Dearborn, that people were celebrating in Dearborn during the 9/11 attacks. That's also not true. And if you see that on Facebook, on Twitter, flag it and report it. Okay, because it's a downright lie. And
wait, how dare you infringe on my First Amendment right to be racist and wrong?
Well, you know where this started, and this is all on the Trump sentiment that seems to be coming out of the shadows, where a girl, after the Paris attacks, suggested that, or posted on Twitter, Dearborn, Michigan has the largest Muslim population. Let's bomb the shit out of it, or she said something along those lines. This was
recently, right?
Yes, this was recently, and Dearborn police contacted her, and the FBI's looking into it, and she could go to jail for this, and you know what? She made a threat. She threatened a city. That's a terrorist act.
Yeah, right.
That is.
Well,
and people were jumping out saying, "Oh, this is just Obama. That Nazi is trying to infringe on our free speech." No. Actually, you have it quite ironically wrong there, Jethro. What's happening is that she wants to wipe out a race of people, similar to how the Germans wanted to wipe out the Jews.
Yep.
You want to wipe out the Muslims, and that is a cause for the concern for the United States, because we have a lot of legal Muslim Americans and a lot of Muslim Americans who are trying to become legal in this country who are pretty damn fine citizens.
Well, and a lot of people lose sight of the fact that the biggest demographic of people killed by Islamic extremists are Muslims.
I know. It's so ridiculous. It's so sad. It's all just racism and xenophobia.
Well,
it's just pure hate, Mike.
You know what
There's nothing
it is
to it. People found an excuse. They're doubling down, and Trump is giving them a voice, and Carson to a lesser extent too. And even Jeb Bush saying, well, only the Christians. John Kasich saying that we need to create a new branch of government for Judeo-Christianity.
Yeah.
This is all just every Republican candidate feeding into the hate, because the hate is getting them numbers in the polls.
Well, you know what it is? People are scared. And when they're scared, you can get them angry at just about anyone that you can convince is a threat to them. And that's what's happening.
But Mike, that's where you're right, where it's not cute anymore.
Right.
Because, I mean, in 2001, post 9/11, we even had Bush, who at times said stuff about this being a Christian nation and talked about speaking to God and all these awful comments that he made. But he still reinforced that this isn't all Muslims, that these are extremists, that we have Muslims and the Kurds fighting along with us against the Taliban, and that was his responsibility. And now it's like these people are being completely reckless and irresponsible, and they're preaching a type of hate that we last seen with the Bolsheviks, we last seen with the Nazis, that we saw in Yugoslavia, which literally tore the country apart.
Well, Kyle, one of my biggest pet peeves are people posting memes with facts that are made up, especially because it's so easy to Google. And number two, when you actually click on that article or you click on that meme, the Snopes article discrediting it opens up underneath it. But Donald Trump tweeted out this meme, and it says USA Crime Statistics 2015, and it says blacks killed by whites 2%. Blacks killed by police, 1%. Whites killed by police, 3%. Whites killed by whites, 16%. Whites killed by blacks, 81%. And blacks killed by blacks, 97%.
My grandpa died a couple weeks ago. You know how he died? Black man killed him.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. That didn't really happen. But according to these statistics that Trump just put out there, there's a good chance that it did.
Well, two things. Number one, underneath it says source. Crime Statistic Bureau, San Francisco. There's no such entity. There's no such entity. Number two, 97% of what? 97% of all black people are killed by blacks? 97% of black people who are murdered? I mean, 97% of what? It's just an empty platitude meant to whip people up into a frenzy. And it's like I said, going back to your somewhat racist uncle reposting everything he sees on Facebook. He probably saw this as, "Oh no, this is terrible. I must tweet this out right now.
People need to know." Yeah, wake up.
Yeah, wake up, America! In all caps, they're coming for you.
Yeah, exactly. And then that picture of that quote-unquote thug next to the statistics. The fact that Trump tweeted this out should automatically disqualify him.
I will never vote for a man who doesn't Google before he reposts memes.
But because he's going to have to rely on a lot of statistics and a lot of different bureaus, crime, statistics and stuff to make policy decisions. So if he's going out there and just posting something that's completely made up, that automatically disqualifies him from being president right there.
Well, that thousands of people celebrating in Jersey City as the Twin Towers came down. I was watching NBC News, and I guess a reporter contacted him about it, and he says, "I don't remember seeing it, but I saw it, and I know I saw it because I've got the world's greatest memory."
Well, here's the thing with Trump, and I've been trying to figure him out, because at first I thought he was just saying whatever he could.
I thought he was kind of like a lovable boob.
Right, to angle his way into a demographic that he thought he could play up.
Right.
But now I am really starting to wonder if he genuinely believes this stuff. See, here's the thing. I never thought he genuinely believed any of this before, but what's the point of him making it up now?
Right.
Because he's getting so severe, so far to the extreme. This is stuff he's never going to be able to live down. And I would think that it's stuff that's going to be... Because, he can throw out a bunch of, shady statistics about Mexican immigration, and he could say stuff about Mexican immigration, but we're not talking about actual terrorism being involved with that. Are they still racist and abhorrent statements? Yes. But there's nothing tangible to go along with what he's saying.
Right.
With this, there's something tangible, and he's talking about putting people in camps, tagging people. He's talking about doing some really scary stuff.
Right.
And that's something he is not going to be able to live down. So what's the point of him making it up at this point in the campaign unless he really genuinely believes it, which to me is disappointing, because I never saw him as that detestable of a figure.
Yeah, you saw him as kind of brash, but
Yeah,
harmless. I guess
exactly.
would be the word.
Yeah, harmless. That he was a character. He was a caricature. And now I look at him and I'm thinking, whoa, this guy must really believe this, and he's only getting more and more extreme, which is incredible, thinking all of the Arabic people he's done business with. I'm sure he's done business with Muslim people before.
He's had to have.
Yeah, well, he claims he saw those oil fields being burned by ISIS, which was probably another lie. But he's done business deals with, I'm sure, Mexicans before and Latino people before. I'm sure he's done business deals with black people before. So I don't know what the hell he's doing at this point. I'm starting to wonder if he's fatigued and losing his mind, and also he's got to be running out of money too.
Well, and also, if you wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, you might be able to say, look, he's not riding high on his on momentum anymore, so maybe he feels like he has to escalate and become more and more outrageous to make waves. Like I said,
but even
if you
then,
wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt,
he can't live this stuff down, and it's to the point where now he's completely wrecked his reputation with everyone except white supremacists and probably my aunts and uncles.
Well,
who I'll be running into this Thanksgiving. This is just beautiful timing for me, Mike.
Yeah, we'll play them. You should all.
I might drink myself to death on Thanksgiving, and that's a threat.
You should all gather around and listen to this podcast.
Oh, well, yeah, we already know the reaction my family had to this podcast.
You and I should set up gear at your family's Thanksgiving and do a special edition.
Oh, that would be such a nightmare. It's already going to be a nightmare, though. I can't think of things getting much worse. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm excited to go because the food's going to be delicious. There's going to be a nice, comfy couch for me to drunkenly pass out on.
Well, for Thanksgiving, though, can't people just shut it down for a night?
No, not my fan. Ever since Obama, and I think I've talked about this on the show, but I'll rehash it because it's probably been a while. Not since Obama's been elected has my family shut the hell up. Not since. So since 2008, our family parties used to be a blast. We used to play board games. We everybody used to have drinks and stuff, and we used to talk all night. Everybody would stay until midnight, 1 o'clock. I mean, we had a great time. Ever since Obama's been elected, every family party has devolved into my uncles while they're sipping, $80 scotch and smoking even more expensive cigars, talking about how awful they have it under this dictator of a president.
I guess I'm lucky because you're not the first person. You're not the first person who's made comment as to how unbearable family Thanksgiving is now. My other co-host, Fred Slow, posted that, and I'm lucky. When my family gets together, we just make fun of our parents.
Yeah,
and we all have a good laugh,
which is good. That's the way it should be. But I mean, in no board games, everybody's out of there at like 8 o'clock. It's like everybody gets each other so worked up,
right?
Talking about how terrible it is under Obama. And how much they hate their lives because of Obama and how miserable he makes everyone and how he's putting us in imminent danger and all this. Which, imminent danger we've been under since 2008, by the way. Yeah. So, almost 8 years. That now it's like everyone just gets burned out. No one has any fun. Everybody just gets salty and goes home.
Let me ask you. What place would you least like to be? Bar hopping in Windsor the night before Thanksgiving, or at a shopping mall the day after. Well, not even the day after. 2 hours after you eat.
At first, just to clear up your one question, I would say bar hopping in Royal Oak the night before Thanksgiving rather than Windsor because they don't have that night before Thanksgiving tradition there.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah, but
I'll allow it.
But I would say, I would definitely say I'd rather be bar hopping because at least I can get a drink. I mean, once the bartender sees me, which would be about once every hour.
Right.
So, and the drinks will probably be overpriced. You probably won't have any specials. Knowing the bars in Royal Oak, to use it as an opportunity to gouge people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Royal Oak sucks.
I would rather be at the mall.
Why? Oh, God, why?
Because I hate bar hopping.
No.
I just want to stay in one place. Why do we have to spend 20 minutes in this place and then 20 minutes in this other place that's exactly like this place?
That's a really good point, actually.
Well, I mean, have you ever been a fan? Some people love bar hopping. It's like, can't we just go sit down at a TGI Fridays and just let them bring us the drinks?
Well, I'm a fan of... I guess I'm a fan of limited bar hopping. I've only been a part of a couple legitimate bar hops in my time.
Yeah.
It isn't something I've done very often.
I don't even like to move around at parties. I like to sit in one place, and sometimes the crowds gather around, and other times there's no one there. But I like to stay in one place, kind of like your elderly relatives in their recliner at Christmas.
I like to find the cat, and then I just hang out with the cat.
Yeah.
Because there's always a cat. But as I was saying, I've only been a part of a couple legitimate bar hops, and I'd say what I prefer it to is that if you have transportation, like that's the key thing. Like if you have transportation, you're good to go. But Mike, I see what you're saying. Every place you got to deal with a different set of prices. You got to deal with a different crowd. Got to find another place to sit. You know, I see, and you're progressively getting more and more impaired as the night goes on. So everything is more of a struggle as the night goes on.
Like I
see what you're saying.
I don't mind a change in location if you're changing activity.
Like if you go from maybe I see, I'm in favor of doing a 3-bar hop.
Okay, that's
somewhere
fine.
for like some pregame drinks, some warm up drinks, and then you go somewhere for dinner. You have a couple more drinks there, and then you go somewhere after, and then you ride out the rest of the night there.
Dinner, booze, and then like your greasy spoon diner for after your booze. That's my ideal bar hopping. You get your actual meal in, then you go somewhere and get your booze in, and then afterwards you go to your Denny's or your Ram's Horn or your IHOP for breakfast foods.
See, if you're doing it in Detroit, now the place is Bucharest Grill.
Is that place always super crowded?
It's always super crowded.
Wait, the
but
Bucharest
if you can
Grill,
find your way in.
Well, downtown or on Michigan Avenue, because there's a Corktown location which is fantastic. It's got its own parking lot. It's never crowded. But if you go to the one downtown, it's like you're like cattle.
Well, always downtown. That's the one. I've never been to the one in Corktown yet, but the one downtown is good because not only can you get your greasy food in for an affordable price, but you also have you can also get 1 or 2 last drinks there too. There used to be Detroit One Coney Island on Woodward.
Yeah.
But one of the waiters, or actually the busboy, my girlfriend gave him her email address to be nice because he asked for it because he claimed he had some soup recipes for her, and she fell for that, and she gave him her email. And
would he email her dick pics?
He didn't email her dick pics, but he got creepy with it. He asked her out on a date, so now we can never go back there, and it's kind of frustrating because that's a good end of the night place or anywhere in Greektown.
Oh. Who the hell tries to pick up people via email like the Amish?
Well, that's why she gave him the email address and not like her phone number or something or Facebook.
Don't you think? And maybe sometimes I give people too much credit.
It was a bummer. It happened on my birthday.
I would think that if I asked a girl for her phone number and she gave me her email address, I would take that as a hint. I might still send one email just to see what I get back, but I wouldn't expect much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're cooked. But Mike, I see what you mean. I think 3 stops is acceptable. Anything more than that gets to be a little much. And also, it adds up, too, because you got to tip at every place.
Yeah.
And, it really does add up.
I remember a friend of mine suggested that we go bar hopping for my birthday. And I said, why? It's Turn the Radio Off on the internet.
Turn the radio off. With Mike Parsons.
No drug dealers living next to me. Pretty good deal.
Kyle Bauer.
Yeah.
People hate my podcast.com.
Hi, time for timer. What? No time for breakfast? Now look, since 6 o'clock last night you haven't eaten a bite. Come on, I'll show you why that's really not the way for a growing kid to start a busy day. Here we are inside your body, and this noisy empty space is your stomach getting angry because there's no food in the place. Uh-oh, let's find some food fast. Now listen, I don't want you to think this is the best way to eat breakfast, but in case you can't cook, and if you haven't time for a good cereal and a well-balanced meal, then this quickie breakfast is better than nothing at all, okay? Hey, here's orange juice and milk and fruit just waiting to be taken. And bless my soul, right here's a bowl with one cold piece of steak in, a hard-boiled egg or chicken leg or cheese or luncheon meat, or a peanut butter sandwich. Any time of day is a treat. So to keep your mom from grumbling and stop that stomach rumbling and keep your legs from stumbling when you play, you gotta eat some kind of breakfast every day.
Your non-stop alt-talk alternative for 1 hour a week. Turn the radio off. Become a fan at peoplehatemypodcast.com.
Speaking of cities like Dearborn and now Hamtramck, I guess Hamtramck has made news because they are one of the first cities in the United States to have a majority Muslim population, I guess, on their city council. 4 out of their 6 city council members are of Muslim faith. And I guess CNN came to town and was talking to their mayor, and NPR they're talking to their mayor. And, I hope that eventually we can point to cities like Hamtramck or cities like Dearborn that has the largest Muslim population in the United States and say, hey, look, there's been huge Muslim populations here for years and years and years. It's been peaceful. I don't think that there's a single person, and we live downriver, which has a reputation of having their views, and I don't believe I know anybody who feels unsafe living between these two cities. So I'm not optimistic because nobody's pointing to Dearborn as a uneventful place that has a huge Muslim population, but Hamtramck has made news for it. So I hope there's follow-up pieces that show, hey, look, this is what I'm talking about. When we say that not all Muslims are terrorists and the majority of Muslims living in the United States are good law-abiding citizens, I hope that's brought to the national attention, even though I'm not optimistic about it.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic about it either. But I will say this about Hamtramck and Dearborn is they are among my 2 favorite cities in the metro area.
I wish Hamtramck had better parking.
I love Ham. I was just there on Friday night, and every time I go to Hamtramck, I always end up saying to myself out loud, I love this place. Yeah. And I work all the way up in Rochester, so it's not too feasible for me to, live in Hamtramck. But I've thought about it.
If you work in the D and, you're single and young and you need a place to stay for cheap, Hamtramck would probably be one of the first places I would look if I were in that position.
And the best thing about Hamtramck is that it hasn't gentrified yet, yet being the key word, but it's a beautiful old city that's very unique. It's a true melting pot. You see people of every demographic in Hamtramck. And, there's still a strong Polish population in Hamtramck, of course, Arabic, Indian, Muslim. And then, of course, you have your hipsters and, you have your young white kids looking for somewhere cheap to live that's a little off the beaten path where they can be creative. And then Dearborn. I love Dearborn, and it's people forget, like, Dearborn has the Henry Ford and Greenfield Village, and people forget how big Dearborn is and how expansive it is, and that even though there was just a shooting there, unfortunately, Fairlane Mall is another popular place that they have, but it's always been a nice, when I lived in Detroit, I'd often find myself, to go to any metro area to go, shopping or to pick something up or get something to eat, I go to Dearborn. I've gone to Dearborn for countless dates. It's a beautiful little city, as is Hamtramck. They're both fun and interesting places to be, and I hope that's really highlighted. But, Mike, I ventured into the comments section.
Oh boy!
On the Fox 2 story about the girl who suggested that we bomb Dearborn off the map.
Oh boy!
And
that was your first mistake.
Well, that was my first mistake. But Mike, there was about 700 comments to the point where I was reading it, and I made it through maybe about 300, and it was like 90-10 pro blowing Dearborn off the map and saying there's no way that Dearborn isn't housing Islam extremists, it isn't housing ISIS, just look at the numbers, look at the people, and then it talks about Dearborn is under Sharia law and Dearborn celebrated 9/11, stuff that's just completely made up. And these are people from the Metro Detroit area wanting to kill or see fellow Metro Detroiters harmed. That's where we're at right now with this, and that's when it really gets scary. I mean, these are their neighbors.
Yeah.
They want to bring violence that close to them because they feel that people, law-abiding citizens in a very functioning, very well-populated, thriving city of Dearborn, they want to see harmed.
Well, and the shame of it, too, is that it's always the stupidest people who scream the loudest. Most decent people, most people who understand what the way the world works, and that Dearborn is a peaceful city, and the vast majority of Muslims are not a threat. They're not going to take time out of their day they're not going to take time out of their day to start getting into Facebook flame wars. I did the same thing on Sunday, Kyle. On Sunday, I signed on, and I saw 4 super racist memes and 3 memes that were just false. And I was going to comment, and I said, you know what? It's Sunday. Yeah, I'm gonna have some bacon and eggs with my wife. I'm gonna go to my parents' house for Chinese food for dinner. I don't need to bother myself with this. So it's only the super scared and the super stupid who feel like they're being oppressed for whatever reason because there's finally a black president or something, who will actually take the time to comment on stuff like this. But I'm sorry, Kyle, but you bring up an interesting point. A lot of these people think that Dearborn is quote unquote under Sharia law, and I think one thing that we can do when it comes to the city of Hamtramck is to point at how much of their city council and local government is run by Muslims, and how Hamtramck is not under Sharia law. I think that's what when people start getting riled up. Point to Hamtramck. Look, they've got 4 out of 6 of their city council members are Muslim, and Sharia law has not been implemented in Hamtramck.
And a lot of these nut jobs too would probably support Sharia law if they actually read up on it. I mean, because a lot of them are grossly conservative and hostile towards
Wait a second. Your wife can't leave the house without your permission? That don't sound half bad.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point. But it just hurts me to see a city that is right next to us. I mean, Mike, Dearborn is just north of you.
Yeah.
I drive through Dearborn to get here. And for people to say that this city in particular is a threat and that this city should be under siege because of its complexion, because of its demographics, it's very disconcerting to hear. And, I don't know. I mean, there have been points, obviously, worse points in history for the U.S. when it comes to race relations and dealing with diversity. You can look at the early 90s with the Los Angeles riots. You can go back to the 60s, late 60s and early 70s, and the civil rights era. But it seems like we're getting dangerously close to those times. Between everything that's gone on the college campuses, the various riots, there's the police shooting an unarmed man in Chicago. They're about to release the video of that. Rahm Emanuel had to give a speech begging people to not act hostily to this video,
right?
Which means it's probably going to generate a hostile reaction, maybe another riot, or maybe more demonstrating and protesting in Chicago. And I'm not saying that all this is unwarranted, but there's so much pushback between everyone, everywhere right now.
Well, you know what? I think the internet. And I hate blaming things on social media, but I think that is a genie that we can't put back into the bottle. I forgot where I read it, but somebody posted a meme that says, we have all the information known to man at our fingertips, and we plan to use it for cat pictures and porn. And if that's all we used it for, Kyle, I'd be happy. What we use it for is spreading misinformation
and hate
and fear.
Yeah, and fear and hate.
And like I've said many times, Kyle, sometimes I just want to say shut down the internet because we can't handle the responsibility. So that's what happens. You take these, you take some stories that may have sort of been also rans in the news, and then somebody latches onto it and they put out one extreme side, and then you get someone else who's threatened by that side and they put out an extreme side, and instead of there being common ground in the middle, they just kind of try to outdo themselves.
I think genie being unable to put the genie back in the bottle is a perfect way to put it, because it's not like the internet is ever going to be shut down or taken away from us.
Right.
It's not going to happen. I mean, I don't know if I can say we always handled things more civilly in modern times when it was just newspapers and radio and TV and 3 channels on the television and 6 channels on radio. I don't know if I can say that because, again, you look at all the turmoil of the civil rights movement into the early 70s where there were still episodes of just very violent riots that killed over hundreds of people.
See, to me, most of the turmoil, it's just whiny bitching for the most part, with some volatile outliers here and there.
Yeah, but I don't know. At the same time, though, it feels like it's easier to be consumed by it, and it's harder to get away from it.
Well, the one thing the internet does is that it convinces a lot of people to follow BSers. Like, a lot of times someone will say, hey, man, the media's lying to you. Or, hey, man, the government's lying to you. And you believe them because they probably are. And then they tell you a lie, and you believe it because they told you who's lying to you. They proved it, and now they're going to believe everything you say. Mm-hmm. It's like the Starbucks cup thing, Kyle.
That's a really great example.
There was one jackass on YouTube who was pissed off about the cups, okay? And then all of a sudden, it was all over the place that Christians are boycotting Starbucks. So people weren't getting mad about the cups because why would you? They were getting mad about these invisible boogeymen, these invisible evangelical Christians who don't have anything better to do than to worry about Starbucks cups. So now we're mad at this invisible group of people that the internet made up.
Well, I will say one thing though. A lot of people are talking about taking away a lot of things from Muslims. Can we talk about taking YouTube away from Christians?
How about just YouTube away from idiots? How about that? Because I know a lot of good.
Well,
smart...
no, I mean, we're going to go all the way and say, oh, well, all Muslims are this way. We all have to put badges on them, and we all have to monitor them, and we have to put them in camps and stuff, and take away their freedoms and stuff. Can the Muslims in exchange just get back YouTube from Christians? Can we draw that up in a trade? I still feel like the Muslims would be getting hosed, but their bargaining chip isn't very good right now.
Shocking. On the latest episode of Turn the Radio Off, Kyle wants to put all Muslims in camp and put it on YouTube.
No, I want to broker a deal, and I'll try to broker it fairly. I'm just saying right now, who has the bargaining chip?
I've never been so happy to be out of time.
Oh. It was a joke.
I know.
It was a joke.
I know.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. It's the eye for an eye thing.
Yeah. It was a joke.
I know. I know. I got your back. But we really are out of time.
Okay.
So we will be back next week. We'll be hopefully we won't be bloated anymore. PeopleInMyPodcast.com. Bye.